So, hello everyone, good morning. It is an enormous pleasure to be here with you. Sasha, I was finding it so interesting, the discussion you were having at the studio, that I wish that I could be there physically to join you and continue that interesting discussion. I found it super interesting what you were saying, that data is everyone's job. In fact, there was an article that I published a few months ago specifically talking about that the data mission belongs to everyone, and unless we're working together as one team, it is really complicated to show value. You were also discussing about the power of data, the value that data can bring to our organizations. And I wanted to start this presentation summarizing that in Vodafone, we are very conscious about that. And we are already using, obviously, with a data privacy by design approach, all the data that we have across our organization that we can use for multiple and different use cases. In the telco industry, we can summarize that there are three big buckets of information, of data. The first one has to do with the network. Our mobile networks are generating millions of records, a huge volume of information that we can use for different use cases. You were saying in the studio one example about smart capex or network rollout that basically our group technology teams are working very actively on. The second bucket is around our customers, both in the consumer space and in the enterprise space. Something that is quite unique is that all the data we've got is certified, so we can use it for different use cases. In this case, and monetizing it and using it very effectively to generate value. The last piece of information, the last big bucket, has to do with the IoT, with devices that are connected to our networks and our partners across the world that are generating, again, lots of records, lot of information that we can use. We can use examples like the IoT connectivity data, and in some other cases also the data itself, based on the collaborations that we have with our partners and our customers. So monetizing and using this data effectively is not only a mission and a really big ambition, it's a responsibility, because becoming a data-driven organization implies that we need to use with a secure approach, but we need to do this effectively to create value. Since, I would say, for the last 4.5 years, we have been focusing on executing our data strategy. So what this means is that when we put together our thinking and our vision on how we could use data across the organization, we haven't changed that thinking. We've been obviously evolving and adding new use cases and new initiatives, but we have continued with a very clear strategy and we have focused on execution. We monetize data across two main initiatives. The first one has to do with internal data transformation, how we can become a more data-driven organization. You were mentioning in the studio about our big one data ocean, our one platform, that the partnerships with Google is a really good example of how we can get the best out of the best cloud platforms. We are applying a very solid and thorough data governance underpinning all this data strategy, and we are democratizing and scaling different AI and advanced analytics use cases. All this in order to ensure that we have good data assets like the 360 and the single customer view that can underpin all the customer value management activities that we perform across our markets. The second pillar of our data strategy, it has to do with external data monetization, which is a super relevant topic these days, even more. In external data monetization, we look at two different types of use cases. One that has to do with enhancing our core connectivity portfolio, so how we can embed AI and advanced analytics in our connectivity services to optimize the operations and help our customers get a better service and run their operations better. The other example has to do with the new digital data products. So in this case, is how with a data privacy by design approach, we can build end-to-end data services that support customers in specific challenges that they face, like understanding the mobility within a city, understanding the different journeys that happen between different places, improving transport across different transport organizations, or even helping out-of-home advertising companies understanding the impact that the different campaigns are having. So this lands, and this is our data strategy in Vodafone Business. We put this together several years ago, and we've been actively focused on delivery and execution. And this is what we want you to get a really good learning today during this session. Across our internal activities and delivering value in the data transformation journey, as you saw before, we set up our platform as a service that Group Technology has set up for us. So how we could put all the data that we have across all data warehouses, all platforms into one single data ocean. The second pillar in the internal transformation is providing data as a service. You were talking in the studio about the importance of data governance, and that is absolutely true. We need to ensure that all the teams that are working on data, they use the same data assets for consistency. Therefore, any kind of analysis, decision-making activity will use the exact same data sources, or in this case, the exact same data assets that we have enable across. And the last pillar has to do with advanced analytics and AI as a service. Clearly now all teams, all initiatives have a really serious dependency not only on data, but in the application of data science, advanced analytics, and AI at scale. We ensure that we get involved since the beginning with all these different initiatives, work as one team, applying agile methodologies, and ensure that we can get the best out of not only the data, but also the skills and the frameworks that we have built in-house in order to maximize the value that we can get from data. Simple examples to show you. This is one example with that we're working together with many different teams to simplify and democratize data access. This has become a very important activity that all teams need good quality information to access basically and make decisions that can have a significant impact in the business. So we are creating different dashboards and enabling data assets for all kind of use cases. One example is creating these dashboards that can be accessed by different teams. Another example is how we can accelerate insights generation. So we can see how we can build different insights that show the ability to come up with relevant information that can be applied in our daily operations. Or we can also look at the previous example, that is the same data assets that we have enabled and we have built for our business stakeholders. We can also feed them back into our Salesforce tool, so that all our sales teams can get really good insights about customers, about sales activities, sales operations, in order to basically optimize and understand very well what is the situation with customers and what are the main opportunities and threats that we have in our existing customer base. So these are different examples of how we can democratize and embed the same data assets across different use cases, but it's equally important to underpin all this strategy that we are executing with a very solid data governance that underpins everything we do. One example in our organization where we are selling thousands of different products across all our markets is to keep a very solid, good quality information about our product data, our products that we sell, and that we are continuously creating and launching new products in the market. We built a centralized and digital platform called our product specification database, where we keep really good information about all these products. This is really insightful because not only this is a digital tool that all product managers across the whole Vodafone footprint can access to, is that we ensure that there is a unique product taxonomy that can be used for any kind of reporting on finance or sales, on marketing, on the build or run domain, understanding customer service, understanding customer feedback. So centralizing and keeping good quality product information under a solid data governance program is an essential activity where we are working together with many other teams. So now let's move on and let's speak about the other part of the data strategy. So until now, we've been looking at internal data transformation. Now let's start looking at different examples on external data monetization. One of these examples where telcos have been playing a really important role in the last years, and they continue to do, or we continue to do, has to do with how can we generate mobility and location insights from our network metadata, and how can we do it with a privacy by design approach. This has also proven really, really important in the last year and a half, because mobility information has proven really essential to fight against COVID, to understand the simulation and the propagation of the virus. And therefore, even beyond protecting society, this was a really important activity where we joined forces with all our basically operating companies and partners to provide this kind of insights back to public administration. The way that we do this is collecting the data from our network. We apply an initial privacy by design approach, eliminating obviously customers that have opted out, for instance, from the use of this information. We apply a set of aggregation and different extrapolation techniques, and we can generate all these results and provide them with different dashboards or with aggregated data sets that we can send back to our partners or our existing clients. This is a really interesting example because what you can see is that from this idea of monetizing network data at a scale and with a privacy by design approach, we were able to generate a complete suite of different products and services that sit under the name Vodafone Analytics. The application of these services spans obviously what you can think on public administration, and we can work with different media companies on different examples like out-of-home advertising. We can work in the retail vertical, supporting retailers, understanding the footfall area of their stores and understanding how many people visit their different stores or the different commercial malls. We can look into the financial services industry and understand how mobility information and footfall information can impact risk insurance models. We can also look at smart lighting as an end-to-end solution, how we can understand mobility in a city and and develop different techniques and different algorithms that reduce street spend while ensuring that we maintain the citizens' experience with the lighting on the different streets. We can also support governments on many activities around mobility, around transport, understanding different events, understanding how many tourists are coming from different countries or from different regions, how they can make decisions to increase tourism. All these type of services fall under this type of a category. And in reality, even this was announced as one of the 5 pillars plan that our CEO, Nick Reed, announced at the beginning of the pandemic when we were supporting public administration and different, obviously, entities, understanding different mobility patterns so that they could use that information to better make decisions related to the pandemic. So this part of services prove not only to be essential to understand such important activities like tourism or transport, but also during one of the worst situations that we lived during the last years. This is one example of one of the dashboards that we could create, understanding mobility and understanding different indicators related to information such as lockdown or general mobility in different postal codes. And another really interesting example before I finish and go back to Shasha, to the studio, is the example of enhancing our connectivity services with artificial intelligence, with big data, and with advanced analytics algorithms. In IoT, for instance, we manage a connectivity platform where today we have more than 130 million devices with an IoT SIM. It is super essential that we can underpin all these connectivity services with a really strong and sophisticated layer of advanced analytics insights. With this type of services, we can help our customers understand what's going on with the hundreds or thousands of devices that they have connected with our networks. They can understand interesting insights like devices with a high probability of having an anomalous behavior. They can understand and predict the usage at the end of the month. They can understand the billing prediction. They can understand different insights that are happening across their device set. So embedding all this intelligence in our connectivity platforms is an essential activity that is strengthening our connectivity portfolio. So I wanted to give you and have a really quick recap before going back to the studio. That is, delivering value across data is an essential activity. There have been industry analysts that value the data that organizations have between a 10 and a 30% of the revenues that companies make. In the case of such a big organization like Vodafone, that represents a significant amount of revenue if we look at that valuation. And that is why we've been investing really heavily and creating a big community of data practitioners across group and across our operating companies to maximize the value that we can realize from data. Particularly, I'm focusing on Vodafone Business. We have presented in this session a bit of our end-to-end data strategy, how we can monetize all the existing information that we have in our organization with a data privacy by design approach, creating and summarizing the effort that we're doing in two pillars: the internal data transformation and external data monetization. We have made significant progress during the last few years because we have focused very clearly on delivery, and this is a mission that we cannot do alone. That's why when you were saying in the studio, data is everyone's job, I couldn't agree more that this is an activity, this is an initiative where we need to join forces, all the different teams that are actively working on data, and the teams that clearly understand data should underpin all the decisions that they make. So now for the upcoming future, we will continue to expand on this strategy. We will focus on new use cases and new initiatives that will realize significant value for Vodafone and also for our customers. And I hope that you have really had a good glimpse, a good overview of all the activities we're working on and the progress that we've made. I could have spoken for the entire morning, but I had to limit the slot to 15 minutes. So thank you very much. Great pleasure to be here and happy to take all the questions that you have. Sasha, back to you on the studio. Thank you so much.
David, thank you very much. Really interesting session. Thank you for getting through everything for us. And you're right, yes, we could talk all morning. We've got loads of comments from viewers listening to you. Portia says it would be interesting to see how value could be determined for data if it was actually to be put onto a balance sheet, how you would determine that. Diana, interesting comments here. Perhaps until everybody in the organisation sees the true value of data, it's only then that we would get integration across divisions and the industry, and then it could be done more seamlessly. Diana also says that actually an inability to manage various data across different platforms may create challenges to offer that seamless experience. I saw you nodding on that one, David. Do you want to comment on that?
Indeed, that is one of the main challenges that I would say any data scientist would agree on, is that when you need to bring data together from multiple platforms without any type of data governance that ensures that you can use common IDs, that you can bring data together easily, and then you can focus on the high value analytical use cases, that presents a challenge that for the last 20 years, most data scientists have been working on as part of their daily activities. So and that is why I think you've seen the announcement that Vodafone entered into this journey, these partnerships, this active collaboration with Google, so that we could bring all the data that we have across our organization from our data warehouses, from our on-prem big data platforms, from tactical databases into Google Cloud, into a single data ocean, so we could accelerate basically the delivery of high value use cases. That is where you can demonstrate significant and more incremental value instead of focusing most of your efforts in most of the data wrangling, data mapping, data engineering, and data related initial discovery activities. So fully agree with that statement, because that's one of the challenges we face the most.
David, thank you. Aaron, just a very quick question for you.
Yeah, David, very quick one. We spoke a lot about democratization of data, and it's very internal focused, and you talked about a lot of use cases there, but whose role and responsibility is it for the customer to understand, and how do you democratize that data right to the end user?
So when you look about data democratization internally, I think that if you speak the same language about business value and improving operations that your stakeholders across organizations do, then it's going to be quite easy to focus on the right activities and the right priorities to democratize and ensure that all teams know that they can access to all these different assets that we are building. Besides all this, in Vodafone, we do a lot of different activities. We organize different webinars internally that basically do a bit of internal PR of all the assets and the use cases we are working on. We send different emails to the entire community of colleagues across the organization. We organize and we set up also different posts in workplace to increase that awareness. And usually at the beginning of the fiscal year or a bit before, when we define what are going to be the different key programs that as Vodafone Business we're going to be working on for the upcoming year, We identify all the programs that have a data component, that are honestly most of them, and we ensure that we have a data by design approach and a data involvement in all these programs to ensure that all teams can and will benefit from the value and obviously all the progress that we have made across the organization. So lots of different examples as you can see, but the most important activities work very close alongside all your business stakeholders in the organization, ensure that you speak the same language, and ensure that there is a data by design approach in any activity, in any program that the organization is going to be working on.
David, some really interesting stuff there. David Gonzalez from Vodafone Business. Thank you very much for joining us. Good to have your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Have a nice day.